much. Welcome back. Thank you for taking that pause with us. I feel like we don't do that enough to just kind of reflect on all the great things that we heard. So really appreciate taking the time to answer a few questions. And we will use this in an article to really capture the magic that happened in the breakout rooms. So I'm now going to invite Tyler back to the stage, and he will facilitate a conversation with a few parents. So Tyler, take it away.
Thanks, Khadija. Hi again. Would love to open up the conversation to include some voices of parents, even a grandparent, and a partner of the school, and begin with Rob Parker, who is the CEO of the town at Trilith, which is in South Metro Atlanta. And it's a really incredible relationship that we as a school are grateful to have been able to form with the development, with the town in which our school is situated. And it just so turns out that the CEO of this town, Rob Parker, who's on the call with us now, just that relationship, first of all, has helped facilitate deep parental engagement between folks who live in the town and the school. As well, Rob recently has become a grandparent of a few learners at the school. And so he brings that perspective as well. So Rob, would love to just kind of open it up to you to maybe say a few words about Trilith and about your role, as well as how you think the town cultivates that parental engagement in important ways. And then just from your take as a grandparent, what are some key moves grandparents can make to support their learners to become independent learners?
I appreciate it, Tyler. Thank you so much. And thank you for your leadership. I would just encourage everyone to pay close attention to some of the things that you're hearing, because it is a fundamental shift in how we think and how our kids learn. I think that probably the number one shift for me as a grandparent of two granddaughters in the school and watching them grow and develop just since September this past year is that rather than learning stuff, they're learning how to learn. And it's just been amazing to watch that transformation. They are taking ownership of their own learning. It's caused me to reflect and think differently my role as a grandparent and a parent, because I got two generations now that I was telling what to do and answering their questions and advising them, coaching and telling them, I think you should do this and I think you shouldn't do that. That's just a very natural thing to do. But it's very unnatural when you start to begin to embrace this idea of self-directed learning. I would share a couple of thoughts there. One is that if we can rethink our role as guides along this journey, if we could think of ourselves as someone who is not as much of a leader to them as much as a little bit more of a Sherpa and a guide, and can help them, can demonstrate to them when they need it, but probably most importantly is to ask questions rather than answer questions. And so as a grandparent now, I really delight in asking questions that lead them towards their own solution. And so I know that's what happens every day in the forest school. And so I think they get a little frustrated with me, where they just want the answer, but they embrace this idea. And so for me, I even have time with my oldest granddaughter tomorrow, where we had a hard time getting the schedule to work. And I explained to her, rather than tell her how we were going to solve it, I explained the things that I had going on that day and asked her to think through her schedule and then figure out how the two of us were going to get together and make that work. And she solved it. So Tyler, I guess I would say for me, it's about a shift in me and how I approach my learner. And both as a parent, I think I'm quite frankly, a better leader manager at work when I apply those same principles to don't answer the question and solve it, point them towards a solution that they can find on their own.
Love that. Thanks for sharing, Rob. And what a delight to have you as a partner and grandfather at the school. Lateral and Brian, if Brian's able, and no worries if not, Lateral, I know you can take the reins. Lateral, just curious, based on everything you've heard so far and the breakout room conversation, as a mom, as an aunt of learners at the school, what would you recommend in terms of key things you're doing or experiencing that really help?
Yes, Tyler. Hey, I think that it's just listening to the students, listening to the learners, actually engaging in them, within them, and knowing what it was that they learned and to be able to connect with them. I think coming from public school to self-direct learning is a big difference, because we were used to like pushing, hey, do this, do this, do this. And now we're like, what do you got? What do you have going on? Let me see. What are your goals? What do you think they should be? I said, so for us, it's more like, let's be a little bit more subtle and let them lead the way as opposed to us leading them or telling them what to do.
That's great, Laterral. Brian, are you there? I know you got called into a meeting, but are you able to pop on and share your 2 cents?
Yeah, I'm here. I think kind of piggybacking off something Rob said. I think my own personal growth in this process has been like amazing as a parent. Just kind of learning how to let my children fail. I realized I was a lot more hands-on with my grasp on them, kind of not wanting to see them get hurt and that kind of thing. And I think the transition for me, which was kind of a little fearful in attending the forest school, was that it's just if I let completely go, would they? I learned and I'm realizing it's a process. It's the maturity of the child and depending on where they are. For some kids, it might be a running start. You might have to kind of hold their hand to have a running start. Some of the other ones might tend to soar. Me having 3 children in the house and 3 different personalities. And I just looking at each one in their development and not comparing them to each other, just seeing how they soar from their own progress. And I just kind of love watching the process and me learning that it's okay to let them fail. And I also could still kind of put a bubble around them so they don't fall too far. But just kind of growing and allowing them to fail a little more and more as they mature.
That's great, Brian. One of the critiques of self-directed learning has been that it's too student-centered, and it's too focused on just the child. But our report details how actually really truly independent learning and self-directed learning includes an interdependent community of caring adults and peers as well. And so I think what Brian's saying is crucial. Shelley is another parent at our school, and also our art guide, who's in the middle of a day doing art. But Shelley, from your perspective, I'm curious just kind of what's coming up for you as key moves parents can make to really inspire independent learning.
Yeah, I totally agree with what everyone has already said. I think just to kind of add something a little different, I think it's really important for the learners also, and it's the relational side that it brings to the table. I think when you take that pressure off the parents, it's actually believing in the kids also. It's basically saying to them like, hey, I trust that you can handle this and that you don't need me on your back about every single thing going on at school. And I think at home, what that brings home is like a really beautiful side to how the relationships with our kids go. Especially, I mean, for me, I'm in a season where I've got 2 teenagers, almost 3 teenagers, and just giving them that trust and handing their education over to them in terms of like, I know you've got this. As long as I know you're on track or ahead, we're good. And I really don't need a lot of answers from you. And I think all parents know, like, anything that helps relationships with our kids, especially through teenage years, is just kind of a huge win.
That's awesome. Thanks, Shelley. And actually, one of Shelley's children are on the call today, Justice. I'm so great to have you, Justice. What are the most helpful things your mom and dad do to inspire you to be an independent learner?
All right, everyone. So I think that obviously that parent action changes from each family. But I think that another part in that independent development is also integrating like learning to learn in a home environment. I think that
Hey, Justice, Justice, can I pause you for 1 second?
Eventually. And if you are given the reins in school, but not so much at a home life, I think that kind of becomes difficult for the learner. So I think that allowing the child to make decisions for themselves and allowing them to fail at times is necessary. Yeah, totally.
Got it. Justice, I think the internet's lagging just a little bit. I'll try and
Can
come
you
back
guys hear
to
me?
it better. But would love to, Christina, what's coming up for you? I mean, just in terms of research we've done, as a mom yourself, anything to share or add to the conversation?
Sure. Thinking about the youngest learners, another thing we can do to support self-directed learning is provide a lot of opportunities for play, open-ended play where they're engaging with their creativity, because research has shown that having time to play and creating your own play plan and executing it and having materials at your level for young learners really helps them develop their executive functioning skills. So that's like self-monitoring, as well as social problem solving, and all of those soft skills I think are super important for self-directed learning, even as they get older.
Love that. Thank you. And I also noticed we have another mother from our school, Kathy. Just thanks so much for being here. And I know I didn't tap you to share earlier, but you're such an engaged parent with your 3 boys at the school. As you listen to this conversation, what's kind of coming up for you? Anything you might add or push our thinking in any way?
I'm just really inspired by everybody and the level of interest that people have in self-directed learning. And it's definitely been a journey for us. We're at our 2nd year at the Forest School, and I have 3 boys, a 17-year-old and 14-year-old twins. And, we came from public school in America. So it was a huge transition for us. But being on the tail end of it, I could not be any more happier. I just feel so fortunate to have my boys at the school, and especially during a pandemic. I mean, what stroke of luck was that? You couldn't even tell that there was a pandemic with the way the school was run. So we just feel super fortunate to be a part of it. And I just love to see all these faces from around the world, and to think of the possibility for change in the education system and all of these young kids that could just really, really benefit from that. So I just want to applaud all of you for being a part of that endeavor.
Thanks, Kathy. And maybe just one more question before we turn it over to Khatija, and that's back to Rob. Rob, if you're free, which is, it is a unique thing that for a school to have such a strong relationship with community partners, especially a development or a town. And I'm just curious, Rob, from your perspective, how does that impact parent engagement, the relationship that schools and educators can make with the community leaders as well?
Well, I think there's a sense of ownership that we've been talking about all along, where we are, as parents, as business leaders, as supporters of the school and the environment, that we would just play our role really well, that we would not take on the role of the student, but we would create a sandbox, if you will, for them to play in and to work in. So for us, it's been about, what do you need? How can we set you up for success? How can we stay out of your way? And when we should, and come in when you need us. Put up guardrails for safety, but keep those guardrails as wide as we can, so that there's a lot of room. So I don't know if that makes sense, but those are the kind of things that I think of, is that how do we do what we do and what we can do to support and do well, but not engage beyond and into the area where that belongs to both the guides at our school and the heroes themselves, our young people.
Thank you, Rob. Latero, Brian, Christina, any final thoughts? No worries if no. Okay. Well, like I said at the beginning, I want to invite you to go to selfdirect.school and download the report from which most of the content of today's session came. And we want to invite your feedback. We have a number of workshops that our institute offers. We have one coming up in April, actually, about building a blueprint for a new learning model, whether it's for adults or children, that is designed to cultivate self-directed independent learners, including parental engagement. But we welcome your feedback on the report, on our findings. We name a lot of questions that still exist in the field, regarding how we do this well and at scale. And so we invite your feedback. And thank you, Khadija, Mariah, for the chance to be a part of this conversation. We'd love to turn it over to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tyler. And thank you to everyone who joined and shared their perspectives. It was so great to be a part of this for this past 57 minutes now. So the intention of this conversation was really to create a space to have an honest and open conversation on parental engagement and bring together people from around the world. So really, really grateful for Tyler and all the people from Forest School who was able to join and guide us through this. A few closing words. One, we have an ongoing HundrED Spotlight on parental engagement in partnership with Brookings, IDEO, and Kidsburg. We are currently looking for innovations in education in this space. So if you are an innovator or know of an innovation, please do check it out. We'll put the link in the chat. The second is if you are not already a HundrED ambassador and want to continue these types of conversations, we have dropped the link with the quick application process in the chat as well. And additionally, please do check out the resources from the Self-Directed Learning Institute in the chat. That is all from me. I will catch you in the next conversation, and I'll get Mariah, our lovely, wonderful DJ, to play us off. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah, everybody, let's have some fun. You only live but once, and when you're dead, you're done. So let the good time roll. I say let the good time roll. I don't care if you're young or old. You ought to get together and let the good time roll. Don't sit there mumbling, talking trash. If you want to have a ball, you got to go out and spend some cash and let the good time roll now. I'm talking about the good time.